All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me. We'll go ahead and get started here. If you got your questions, go ahead and post them. It's either going to be below the video if you're on a mobile device. If you are on like a standard laptop or desktop computer, it's going to be to the right of the video, or at least it should be, where you can post your questions there, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. So if you're new to the office hours, if you posted questions like last night or something like that, and you're here right now, go ahead and just copy and paste those questions in there. Typically what I do is I start with questions that were asked up to an hour. So I have a little something to talk about first, and then I'll get into Jeffrey C's question, but David W., Jack S., some of these ones that were posted late yesterday that were after the office hours. If you want to get your question answered, go ahead and just repost them here. If we run out of questions, I may go back and answer those. But to ensure you get your question answered, go ahead and just copy and paste it in there, and then it will for sure get answered. But first, I wanted to talk about a student of mine that asked me, hey, what is the best drill for making ball first contact? Really struggling with hitting chunks in thins. So I thought I would go over what that best drill is. And I know a lot of us are working from home. So this drill is awesome because you can do it from home. You can do it at the range. You can do it wherever. So I got a couple cool training aids to show you that I think would be really good. So one is just a Post-it note. So a lot of times the best training aids are the cheapest and most simplest. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3 Post-it notes, and I'm just going to crumple them all into little tiny wadded up balls here. So here's one. Here's the second one. Like I said, this is just Post-it notes. You can do this with take small pieces of paper, notebook paper. It doesn't have to be Post-it notes. We just want them to be kind of small, and I'll tell you why that is here in just a second. So 3 wadded up little tiny pieces of paper. Just try to get them nice, tight wad there, like you're making a spit wad in high school or something like that. All right, so if I angle this down so you can kind of see my feet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place these in a row here. Hopefully you can see those. Yep. All right. So I'm going to place them about 4 inches apart in a row. And the reason why you want them to be small is so that they don't get in the way of your swing. So this first one here is going to be the where the golf ball would be normally, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here, and I'm going to intentionally try to miss these first 2 and hit that second one. So that would look something like this, where I come in and I hit that last one. Now I'm going to set up to this one, and I'm going to try to miss the middle one, but hit the back one. So I'm going to come in. That's why you want to do it really small. I'm going to try and come in and hit that back one. And then I'm going to come in and try to hit the middle one. And what that's doing is that's helping you control the low point of the club. It's called interleaving practice, and it's one of the best ways to give you a better awareness of where that low point of the club is. So the way that we can control where the club is hitting the ground is with our low point, controlling the low point. So if you're not familiar with what low point is when the club is coming down, it's swinging on an arc, right? It's swinging on an arc basically around our shoulder, right? That club comes down, it reaches a low point, and then it works back up. So putting those in a row there, we're trying to get that low point to happen well after the ball, well before the ball, then right at the ball. And I know it seems counterintuitive to intentionally try to hit way in front and way behind, but there's been lots of research out there that shows that you improve a lot faster if you go from one end of the spectrum to the other. It gives you a better overall sense and awareness and feeling of where the middle is. So that's called interleaving practice, or you can call it variability training. There's lots and lots of research out there if you want to go check it out. I'd also recommend reading the book Peak by Anders Ericsson, where they talk about this, but definitely one of the best ways to improve. Now, one also cool thing about it is that it gives you a better feeling of how to make those adjustments. If you can make yourself go too far before, too far after, when you get off out on the golf course, let's say you start thinning some, right? So that means that your low point is probably too far forward, right? You can call upon that feeling where you hit behind, got that low point before, and you can adjust your feeling to get the desired result that you want. Now that drill there, that would be, I would say, is a beginner type drill, because you got those pretty far apart. That's a pretty wide spectrum. But once you get better with it, you can actually tighten that spectrum and use a different training aid. This is the one that I call it. I don't call it the flat ball. It's called the flat ball. You can get this on Amazon, or you can find it in most golf stores. They're very cheap. I think you get like 6, 7 in a pack. It's less than $10. Very, very cheap training aid. But all it is, if I show you a close up, it's the same size as a golf ball. So if I grab a ball, and I am not affiliated with flat ball in any way. I just think it's a cool training aid. But you can see there, it's the same size as a normal golf ball. But you can see it's about a 1/4 inch thick. It's like rubber, like a coaster. And all you do with it is you can do kind of the same thing that we did with the interleaving practice there with the with the little balls of paper. So you don't have to have this training aid. You can use the balls of paper, but this, if you get better with this, the balls of paper are going to be too easy to get, and this makes it a little bit harder. So what you do is you just put this puppy on the ground. It works best if you have it like on a mat or a carpet or something like that. Old strip of carpet. You don't want to tear up your own carpet here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come in and I'm going to try to hit the ground before this flat ball. You'll know, you'll be able to feel the ground. And if you hit the ground before the flat ball, you're not going to hit it very solid. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to try and do that right here. I'm going to set up to it like it's the ball. And then I'm going to come in. And I'm going to try to hit the ground before. So you can see I brushed that ground before. I didn't really hit it very solid. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to try and hit this flat ball nice and solid here. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to try and really, you can tell I really got a hold of that one pretty good. Now, this can mar up your wall, if you have some drywall or something like that. I'm actually hitting it into a door here, so it's not damaging that. But they're not going to do much. They'll fly, if you hit them with a full swing, they'll fly 20 yards or something like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try to hit the top of it. So I'm going to set up like I normally would. And I'm going to come in, and so you can see there, I hit the top of it, and it just kind of popped up. It just kind of popped straight up in the air. All right. And then the next iteration that I'll do is I'll come in and I'll try to miss the flat ball and hit the ground in front. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to miss it, and I hit the ground in front. So you can see I hit the ground up in here. Now, don't cheat this and go way out here, but try to just hit that ground just in front while missing it. Now, if you tap it just a little bit, that's fine, but we just don't want to be coming in like the last one where we really hit down and through it. So now that's 4 different variables that you're going through. And I would just go through those, and that's going to help you to control that. Now, one thing to look at here when we're talking about the Top Speed Golf system is we're talking about our compression line, right? That's one thing that really helps you control that low point. So just as a review, for those of you who aren't familiar with what the compression line is, the compression line is a line that goes from our lead ankle, lead hip, lead shoulder at impact, and we want that to be slightly angled away from the target when we're coming in, with our hips kind of opening up as we're coming in. So if my compression line is very much too far angled away, right? If I angle this back down again, if my compression line is too far angled away, what you're going to see is I'm typically going to have my low point bottoming out too much before the ball, and I'm going to end up hitting the ground before the golf ball. If my compression line is too far forward, I'm leaning toward the target. When I'm coming in, my low point is going to be more forward. So in order for me to hit the ground before, I'm going to have to get my low point more forward. And in order to hit the ground before, or I'm going to have to get my compression line more forward, excuse me. In order to hit the ground before, I'm going to have to kind of hang back. So it's giving you that overall sense and feeling of how the body is working, how your compression line is working. I'm telling you, when you come in and you flush this flat ball, when you come in and hit this flat ball perfectly flush and you hit it solid, your compression line is likely going to be all in a straight line here and slightly angled away from the target, just like we talked about in the Top Speed Golf system. So that's why that's an important part, because it really, really helps you control where you're coming down and making solid contact with that ball. So try those drills. Try it with the little pieces of paper. You can also just take flat pieces of paper and place them on the ground as well. If the little balls of paper don't work, there's all kinds of ways that you can practice this stuff at home. You don't have to be cooped up at home and not working on things. You can definitely be working on controlling that low point. And I'm telling you, if you work on this, you do this 15, 20 minutes a day, your low point, you're going to have very good awareness of your low point. I think everybody can find 15, 20 minutes to work on something like this. 15, 20 minutes, your low point, you're going to have such control of it. You're always going to be hitting solid shots. Now, you may need to work on your face and your path if you're hitting slices and things like that, but you ain't going to be hitting the ground all the time. You ain't going to be chunking it. You're not going to be hitting all those really weak, thin shots. You're going to be coming in and flushing the ball. So I challenge you to go out there and work on that. I think you'll be surprised at how well you'll be able to control that if you work on it every day. All right, so let's get some questions here that just came in. So we're going to start here with Jeffrey C. Like I mentioned. So Jeffrey C. says, for some reason, the more I work through the program, the more I seem to hook the ball. Is there a set of videos or a particular drill to stop hooking the ball? Yes, we actually do have a stop hooking section. If you want to go check it out, there is a bonus course. It's called Never Hook the Ball Again or Never Hook Again. All you have to do is click the house icon at the top of the page. That will take you to the home page. And on the home page, if you scroll down, you'll see a list of all the courses. There's 20 plus courses included in your membership. You'll see the Never Hook Again course right there. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is we have bonus courses that cover basically all the main issues that you're going to find in the golf swing. So just like I talked about chunking and topping, we have a chunking and topping course, right? So there's a slicing course. There's an early extension course. So all the things that you run into in the golf swing, you're likely going to find a course on it. All you got to do is go to the homepage, scroll down, you'll see a list of all the courses right there. If you're struggling with distance, we have a distance course. We have the 20-minute distance fix course. So check out those bonus courses and work through whatever is what may be needed. But I also want to talk about a reason why that may be happening. So a lot of people, when they start working through the system, if their spine angle, if you've worked through the system, if you're familiar with it, we talk about right away our stable fluid spine. We want to be nice and angled away, right? And then we want to be nice and stable and angled away at the top. And then we want to get more angled away and stable as we're coming into contact. Well, if you are used to kind of having a more vertical stable and fluid spine or more vertical spine or more leaning toward the target kind of spine, well, maybe you're making compensations in your swing to get that club to work down on plane. Because typically when you swing like this, when you're more leaning toward the target, when you're coming down, you're typically going to be coming over the top. But maybe you're making a compensation so that you can get that. Maybe you're leaning toward the target and you're making a compensation to get that club to work down on plane. Well, if all of a sudden you take your swing instead of going like this and get where you're angled away, and you're making that compensation, you're just going to swing way from the inside. And that's probably where those hooks are coming from, is that you're getting more angled away. So it's getting your club path way more from the inside and causing you to hit those hooks. Basically, a hook is caused by the face being closed to your path. So if you're coming in and your face is square, right, and your path is really into out, your face is closed to the direction your club head is moving through contact. And that could be from this new spine angle that you may be getting in, and added with your compensation that you were doing before when you didn't have the spine angle, that equals more into out as you're coming in. So that's likely what's going on. Just take a look at your swing, what's going on there. But the Never Hook Again course is going to get you to where you're getting that club to be more on plane. All right, so Dan Shee says, Q, you mentioned a couple days ago that you were working on keeping the back to the target, facing the target a little longer in the downswing in your swing. Yeah, so I'm doing that is basically so I don't rush the downswing. So I have a tendency to want to kind of get up here and just really kind of start with my arms coming down instead of getting nice and loaded up, getting to where I'm leading more with my middle and my lower body, and then getting the arms to kind of follow. Because basically what I'm doing is I'm turning off my body and just throwing my arms at it. Let's read the rest of the question here. So is the proper downswing sequence 1, rotating hips with weight transfer, 2, letting arms drop as hips rotate, 3, fire shoulders in a straight line release? Yeah, so that's a proper sequence, but you're not going to be able to think through that. Like you're not going to be able to think in the swing, okay, now I'm getting my weight shift, and now I'm going to rotate my hips, and now I'm going to fire my shoulders. Things are happening way, way too fast. And also, if you try to think about that, you're probably going to end up with the same problem that I had. If you're thinking about firing the shoulders at any point in the swing, most of the time you're going to turn off the other things that you need to be doing. So really what you need to think about is moving your middle, getting your middle rotating, and letting the arms and the hands and the shoulders kind of follow and release out in front. If you let that happen, the firing of the shoulder, the letting the arms drop, the firing of the hips rotating, the firing of the shoulders, that's all going to happen as a consequence of that. But if you think, okay, I'm going to rotate my hips, and then I'm going to fire my arms, well, you're going to turn off your hips, and your arms are just going to fire in front of your body, right? So get your middle moving, get that weight shift, get the middle moving, and let the momentum of your body bring that club through and to release out in front. Use your legs, use your middle, get those things working, and that's going to allow you to have those other things happen, follow right in line automatically. It's not like you're going to rotate your hips, right? And nothing's going to fire and you're going to come into contact like that. You're just not going to do that, right? You're going to fire those hips. And as you're doing that, that's going to get everything else releasing out in front. Like I said, my issue is that I get here and I tend to want to do that right away instead of getting that lower body involved right away. So get your middle moving, get your body moving, and everything else will fire in that sequence along with it. If you get that working in that fashion, it's going to happen as a consequence of those things. But if you think through it, 1, weight transfer, rotate the hips, and then you think 2, letting hips drop or letting arms drop, 3, right, fire shoulders, things are happening too fast. And if you think about those things as well, you're probably going to turn off the other pieces that you're trying to make happen. Because most people, when they come into contact, their hips are not rotating, right? They're coming into contact. The hips are moving toward the golf ball. We're getting an early extension. Everything's firing in front of the body. What we need to think is we need to keep the hips rotate, keep everything moving through as I'm coming through contact, and then everything else is going to follow in line with that. All right, so Gino S says, hi Q, I would like to increase my lag and load. Is there a specific fitness training device that you would recommend to increase lag and strength? No, just regular weight training would be as far as fitness goes. I would just say regular weight training. If you're looking for something that's an expert in fitness, what I'd recommend is checking out someone who's TPI certified in the fitness area. So I'm a TPI certified golf instructor, which means that I can test you to see if you have any physical limitations. But I would use that information to try to get you to swing the club the best way that I would know how. Whereas a fitness instructor would actually try to get you to be moving in the right, basically get you to where maybe you're strengthening those certain areas. I'm not an expert in that, so I'm not really sure how to do that. A medical professional may find that you may actually have physical limitations. Maybe you're out of alignment or something like that, and a chiropractor might get you back in alignment. So you need to find the particular. I wish I could help you with fitness stuff, but I'm not a fitness expert. So the way I always look at it is that if you're looking for fitness advice, you wouldn't go to a golf instructor, right? If you were looking for golf advice, you wouldn't go to a fitness instructor, right? So go to the experts in that field. So an expert that I would recommend would be someone who is TPI certified in fitness, because they understand what's going on with they're likely golfers themselves, have done a lot of this stuff themselves. As far as training, I have never done any golf specific training in my life. So I wouldn't say that I'm the person to go for that. I've done regular weight training. I've seen very small dividends from that, even just recently, because I've been working out in the last, 6 months or so. But I think it has more to do with I'm just able to move my body better because I have less weight I'm carrying versus actually gaining more strength or anything like that. So I've just been doing regular weight training. So like squats, deadlifts, bench press, shoulder presses, stuff like that. I know one thing that's really good for golf is pull-ups or lat pull downs if you can't do a pull-up. So all those things are good for golf. But really, if you're looking to increase stuff for golf specifically, especially if you're older, it really just comes down to going out to the course and practicing, doing the 20-minute distance fix. Doing actually weight training in the weight room is great for the young guys. You're going to see some increases there, but if you're older, it's probably just better to go out to the course and do it there. But if you're looking for someone who's TPI certified, what I recommend doing is going to mytpi.com. It's mytpi.com. And when you go to their website, you'll see at the top of the page there, they'll say find an expert or something like that. If you click on that, that'll take you a page where you can search in your area code, your city, your state, wherever, and you can search by the particular basically the area that they're in. So are they a TPI instructor for golf, for fitness, or medical? You're looking for someone who's in fitness. So I'd recommend going to that and checking out someone in your area that you can work with. But if you're looking to increase your lag in your swing, the Top Speed Lag course would be where I would go. So Lawrence H says, how to control distance out of a greenside bunker. So good question. You control distance out of a greenside bunker just like you would control distance with any other shot, right? It's all with the loft of the club and the speed at which you hit it, right? And it's just going to take some time in some practice and some feel to get a feel for that. Now, there are some other things that definitely control the distance out of the bunker, and that has to do with basically the contact with the ball. So if you come in and you contact the sand closer to the golf ball, it's going to go further. Whereas if you contact the sand much further away from the golf ball, it's not going to go as far, right? But it may have less spin on it. So basically what you do is you control it with your the speed of your swing and the loft of the club. So typically what you're using in a greenside bunker, it's probably going to be less than a 30-yard bunker shot, right? That's going to be typically like your lob wedge, your highest lofted wedge. It's probably something like a 58 or a 60 degree or something like that. Not to say that you can't use a 56 or a 54. It's just that's what most people have in their bag is a lob wedge for the bunker. So you open up that face a ton, get that pointing up to the sky. And if it's kind of at the end of it, it depends on really what your club head speed is. But for me, a 30-yard bunker shot, that's basically like a full swing, full hard swing with my lob wedge with the face completely wide open and hitting probably about 4 to 6 inches behind the golf ball, somewhere in that area. That's going to get that ball to carry somewhere in that area. Now, if you don't have high enough club head speed, it may be lower than you, or if you have very high club head speed, it may be further. Or if you like to hit the ball, if you like to hit the sand closer to the golf ball, you may hit that ball further. But just in general, that's about where I'm at with my bunker shot. Now, if I have a longer bunker shot than that, that would be my lob wedge is a 58-degree wedge. Okay, so if I have a longer bunker shot, let's say it's over 30 yards, let's say it's 30, it's 30 to 45-ish yards. Well, in that case, I would hit the same shot, but I would just use my 54-degree wedge instead, right? I would hit the same exact shot, hit a 54-degree wedge. And if it was beyond 50 yards, then I would probably take my 50-degree wedge and I would do the same thing. Now, that's pretty rare that I'd have a 50-yard or more bunker shot, but it happens sometimes. Once you kind of get out of that, 60-yard range, and really this depends on your club head speed. I'm just talking about my own reference points. Yours may be different than mine. You basically you're in that area where can I hit a bunker blast shot, or can I hit or do I have to hit kind of like a fairway type of bunker shot where I'm trying to make ball first contact? Typically, I'd always try to go toward like a bunker blast shot because your margin for error is going to be a lot bigger. You're going to be able to miss a little bit more, whereas those fairway type bunker shots, especially where in that short fashion, you've got to be pretty precise when you're doing that. So the only difference I would say is that you hit, if you have to hit longer, use less loft. You're going to hit the same type of shot. You're still opening up the face. and you're still hitting that bunker blast shot, and you're still hitting 4 to 6 inches behind the ball. But if you needed to go a little bit further, you can hit closer to the ball. But understand you're bringing in a little bit of margin for error there, because you're going to be if you hit too close to the ball, you may hit it a mile over the hole, and if you hit too far before the ball, you may not hit it as far as you intend to. So it really just takes practice to get those speeds down. When you're getting under the 30-yard range, it really just takes practice and feel to get that. So that's why I recommend go out and practice it. But the way you control it is mainly with loft and speed. If it's under 30 yards, it's going to be pretty much all speed. As long as you're hitting the sand in the same spot every single time, if you lower the speed, it's not going to go as far. If you raise the speed, it's going to go further. So that's what you have to look at whenever you're working through those things. And understand that you're not always going to be nailing the distance. If you're giving yourself a chance to get up and down, then you're in good shape. You're going to hit some that are going to be great, and you're going to hit some that are kind of way off. It's a hazard. It's unpredictable. You may think that the sand's a little softer or a little bit harder than what it actually is, because not all sand is created equal. Even on the same golf course, not all sand is created equal. You may be in some part of the course that gets more rain, or the water gets in that bunker, and it's more of a packed kind of bunker, and it's not like a soft, fluffy type sand that's on the other side of the course. So these are things to consider. But basically, the way that you do it is with speed and loft, and you just get a better feel for that as you practice it. So I just recommend going out and practicing that to get really good with it. All right, so Del V says, new to top speed golf and finished the first week of the distance fix. Problem is, although I'm hitting the ball further, I'm hitting it all over the course, primarily hitting the ball out to the right, not slicing, just starting there and staying out to the right. I'm finishing properly, but it's frustrating not hitting fairway suggestions. So basically, one thing to understand is that your playing speed swing is going to be different than your 100% effort swing. So you want to make sure that you're listening to the Big Hitters Mindset videos in there as well, because that's where Clay explains this. But we're not saying that you need to go out to the course and swing with 100% effort. We're saying that as your 100% effort swing goes up, your playing speed swing is going to go up. So your playing speed swing is a swing that is basically as much speed as you can muster with also being able to control it. So you're in a place right now where you're probably swinging too hard and you can't control it. So tone it down a little bit to be able to control it. Your 100% effort swing is going to be different than your playing speed swing. So just to give you a reference about myself, I've gone through the training. I've done the 20-minute distance fix. My playing speed starting out was 108, 110. I took 10 swings that were all in that 108, 110 swing, 108, 110 speed range, right? I did the distance training, went through it, the 3 or 4 week program, and I got up to where I was at 123. Now, this was my all-out, swinging out of my shoes, 100% effort. I hit it wasn't a straight shot at all. It was a big old looping draw hook. I mean, it would have been out of bounds if I had I done that on the course. But my speed went up to 123 miles per hour. My playing speed, the speed that I'm comfortable with out on the course, went up to 117, 118 miles per hour. This is the speed that I was controlling just as much as I was when I was swinging 108, 110. So this is from the neural adaptation that you get when you're going through the course. So keep in mind that the 20-minute distance fix is you're swinging 100% effort when you're going through all of this. This is going to raise your playing speed swing. So swing at a speed that you're comfortable with. The other thing to keep in mind is that some of these motions that you're making, so maybe you're making a much bigger turn, right? Maybe you're getting lag in the swing. Maybe you're getting a better weight shift. These are motions that you may not be fully comfortable with yet, right? You got speed right away and you got more distance, but your body doesn't know how to quite hit the ball well yet and move that way yet. So it's just going to take some time to fully ingrain those things. So if you're on the first week of it, you're in the power turn, you may just need to take some time to ingrain that. Once you've gone through the course, you're going to find what pieces work the best for you. And then you're going to be able to work on those to ingrain those motions. Because just because you did it once in the 20-minute distance fix, like you worked on it, you lifted up the heel, you did the catapult drill, you lifted up the heel, you felt your shirt buttons turning away from the target, your belt buckle, or your hands going high, whatever it might be. You felt that one time. That doesn't mean that you're going to do that automatically forever. If you want to do that automatically forever, you have to train it into your swing. You have to do it and get a lot of repetitions in to make it second nature. And that's what you do in the power turn course of the Top Speed Golf system. So what I would say right now, what I recommend doing is just toning down the swing as far as the effort that you're putting into it. Give yourself a little bit more control. And I'm telling you that control is going to be, that controlled swing is going to be higher than what your controlled swing was before because of the neural adaptation. As you go through the course, that will raise up as well. The other thing is that if you're in a place where maybe you're doing the big shoulder turn and the ball's going all over the place, just tone it down a little bit toward more what you're comfortable with until you get more repetition in with it and it becomes more comfortable. So that would be my best suggestion to hitting the ball better on the course. So Vin M says, regarding bunker shots, what would cause not getting out of the bunker despite taking a full, hard, fast swing and contacting that sand within 4 inches of the ball? Probably if that club is digging into the sand too much. So it's hard to say without actually seeing what happened. But if you don't open up the face enough, the club will dig. So if you imagine like a water skier, right? A water skier, they got that nose up as they're going through the sand, right? Or going through the water. That's allowing them to glide on top of the water. The moment that nose dips down in the water, they're diving down into the water. And that may be what's happening with you, is that you're not opening up the face enough and exposing this bounce on the wedge, which is going to allow that club to glide through the sand just like it would if like a water skier would. So if you're kind of coming in with a square club face and you're hitting 4 inches behind the golf ball and swinging really hard, well, that club's going to come down and it's going to dig into that sand. It's just going to kind of get lost in the sand. It's not going to get that ball out. So you need to make sure that you're opening up that face. The way to do that, you want to open up that face about 45 degrees. So if I have the club up like this, that'd be a square club face. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that grip like that, 45 degrees. It's going to look weird on the ground because it's going to look like the face is pointing up to the sky, and it's not going to be far from that. But what that's going to do is that's going to expose this bounce so that the club can glide through the sand. You're not hitting the ball necessarily. You're hitting the sand, and the sand is throwing the ball out of the bunker. That's kind of the feeling that you want to have, is that you're coming in, you're hitting the sand, and the sand is throwing the ball out. So open up that face, hit that sand, let that club glide through the sand because you're using the bounce, and the ball will come up out of there. If you have it square, you hit 4 inches behind the golf ball, it's just going to dig into the sand, and it's not going to come out of there. The club's just going to get lost in the sand. So let's see here. Bruce F says, how do arms work in the downswing? Is it a left arm pull, or do they work together? They work together. They're both. I mean, there's definitely a left arm pull going on, and there's also the right arm is coming in and supporting the club as well. So really the feelings and everything are very relative. So it's hard to say exactly what you need to feel to get that. But if you get your lower body working properly, the arms are just going to follow right in line with what they need to do, right, to swing the club. Now, if your body doesn't work properly, you're just going to throw the arms at it, right? So if you get the lower body in your middle of your body, move the middle correctly, you're going to feel how the lead arm is pulling and the right arm is coming in and supporting that as well. So that's get the lower body working correctly, get this downswing started correctly, and you'll feel that pull and so on and so forth. So if you want to work on that, there's actually a great drill for that. It's called the How to Start the Downswing video. If you want to go check that out, just search the word downswing on the website. There's actually a great search engine on the website. If you go in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a little search box, and you can click there and just search the word downswing. It'll be, I believe it's called How to Start the Downswing. It's got yellow lettering in the thumbnail. What you do in that drill is you do what's called the step drill, and that's going to help you to get that proper feeling of how the arms should be coming down, because it's going to get your body moving correctly. It's going to basically force your lower body and your upper body as well to work correctly and sequence properly in the swing. So that's why I'd recommend doing it. If you're on a mobile device, select that little icon on the upper right-hand corner. That's 3 horizontal lines. That will expand a menu. Scroll down on that menu, and you'll find that search box. Click that search box and search the word downswing. So James C says, can't seem to get my driver to release. Always a little fade, not out of the fairway. Sometimes a bit of a pull fade. When I try to draw, it's at best straight. So basically, I think when you're talking about release, I think you're talking about getting that club face to roll over and square up. I don't think you're talking about the club releasing like we talked about in the straight line release. So correct me if I'm wrong there, but it sounds like you're talking about how that club is rolling over and squaring up based on your question there. So what I would try to do is get that club face squaring earlier in the swing. And that's going to come from this lead wrist bowing. So that's called wrist flexion, where the wrist goes like that. And then your trail wrist, you want to get that going in more flexion, which is where we're going more knuckles back. So if you see here, if I'm coming down and I'm starting down and I'm getting that club face squaring up earlier, that's coming from that motion in the swing right here. So that's going to allow me to get that club face squaring earlier so that I can rotate into contact. And that's already going to square it up. So you don't have to come into contact and try to release that and roll that hard. You already have it squared up so that you can come in with a square club face already. So to work on that, what I'd recommend is working on the move course from the website. And that's going to get you to where you're hitting that nice draw. You're hitting that nice compressed, nice draw where you're getting that face rolled over like you're talking about. It's going to be happening earlier in the swing. That's going to make it a lot easier for you. The tennis racket drill is one that I recommend from there. So all you got to do is go to the top of the page, click the house icon. That's going to take you to the home page. If you scroll down the home page, you'll see a list of all the courses on the website, and select the move and get started on those drills. Now, Clay uses an iron in most of the videos on the move. The move does not just apply to irons. Excuse me, it applies to all the clubs in your bag you're trying to hit with a full swing, every single one of them. So work your way through the move. You can work your way through the move with the driver if you want, but get that club face squaring earlier in the downswing so you don't feel like you have to roll it over hard to try to release it at contact. All right, so keep the questions coming. James C says, thanks, will do, no problem. So keep the questions coming. We got about 20 minutes or so yet. So keep the questions coming, and we'll keep answering them. In the meantime, I'll check my email here. If you're just jumping on here, I'm just waiting for a question to be asked. All right, so looks like we got a question here. Get back to my screen. So Lawrence H says, I went to a long putter 10 years ago and yips disappeared. Now I have yips with chips. How to solve? Typically, yips with chips is coming from just lack of confidence and poor kind of setup and technique of what's going on there. So a lot of times what happens when you start getting the yips is from hitting a couple like thinned or chunked shots, and then you just get kind of tentative, and then you don't have the confidence to make a good swing anymore. And that's usually, you get a couple of them shots and then you change your setup. This is often what I see happen with someone who gets the yips, is they start putting that ball really far back in their stance. So if I grab a ball here, maybe they came in and they're playing the ball in a good spot, and they came in and they started chunking shots. So they moved it way, way back, and they started hitting some good ones, but then they topped a couple, they thinned a couple, they come somewhat way over the green. Then you just get where you're in this position. It's like, well, I can't move it any further back in my stance. I can't do that. So, what am I supposed to do now? And then you just you lose confidence and you start getting the yips there. So what it comes down to is getting the proper technique and going out and practicing this and improving your chipping again. So I'd recommend working through our chipping mastery course to get the proper technique down. But the easiest way to do it, I would say, is let's just move this golf ball off to the side here for a second. And what I want you to do is, one, get to where your feet are close together and you're set up a little bit open. The reason why I like you to set up a little bit open, basically a little bit open being like this. So if I'm hitting it straight that way toward the outlet on the wall, my feet are a little bit open. The reasoning is that in a chip, we want to keep the body kind of moving. We want to get everything kind of moving. And that's another reason why I see people get the yips, is because they try to turn off their legs and their hips, and they try to do this with all arms. And it's just hard to be consistent when you do that. You can do that if it's a really short kind of stroke like this. But when we get longer and we try to keep our body locked out, we're going to end up kind of going like this and chicken winging and things like that. We're going to end up flipping the club. So we need to get the body opening up so that we can, if you set up already open, just makes it a lot easier to get everything rotating through. So that's the first piece. I would say set up a little bit open. In a chip, we don't need to make a full backswing. For a normal shot, a normal full swing shot, we want to set up with our feet fairly square because we want to get our back turned to the target and then open up into the golf ball. But for a chip, we don't need to take a full backswing, right? We're only swinging back to somewhere in this area. So if we set up already open, we can get the body opening up a little bit more easily in the downswing. It just makes everything a lot easier to release out in front, instead of, if our body is square like this, we're typically going to come in. If we turn everything off, we're going to flip through contact, and you're going to end up with bad strikes. And that's where that lack of confidence and the yips come in. So that's the first thing I would do, is I'd set up a little bit open here. And then what I want you to do is I just want you to get your weight a little bit forward, and then just start pivoting back and through and see where you are striking the ground naturally. See where you're striking the ground naturally. You'll see the grass kind of brush up. So I don't know if you can see that on my carpet, but basically if I go to the back part of my divot there, that's basically right there, right? That's where I'm coming in and hitting that ground every single time. All right, so now I'm just going to transfer that same exact thing to right here. I'm just going to hit some shots, and I'm just going to let my club kind of brush that grass as I'm coming through. Another important note here is to feel like your shoulder is going up, right? So if my lead shoulder here, it stays down, if my lead shoulder stays down, I'm just going to chop down into the golf ball. And again, if I'm really chopping down into the golf ball, it's going to be difficult for me to control, my low point when the club's hitting the ground. If I get this shoulder working down and then back up, you can see as I'm pivoting through, I can just come in and really just brush the grass in the same spot about every single time. And also, if I'm just coming in and I'm just kind of brushing the turf, right, I can hit 2 inches behind the golf ball and still hit a good chip. I can hit 2 inches in front of the golf ball and still hit a good chip. So it gives you a very good margin for error. If you keep that shoulder down and you chop down into the golf ball, you're going to end up, if you hit 2 inches behind the ball, you'll be lucky to hit the ball. If you hit 2 inches in front of the ball, you're going to top it, right? So we need to get that low point, or we need to get that club coming in nice and shallow, and that's coming from the shoulder kind of working up as the club is working down, right? So if we pivot, if we open up our body, we pivot, we loosen everything up, get our legs moving, get our hips moving, and we pivot and we find that point where we come in and hit the ground naturally, and we get our shoulder working up as we're coming in, we're going to be able to come in nice and shallow and be very, very consistent with our chips. So that's what I'd recommend doing. But I'd also recommend going to the chipping mastery course and working through those sections. Work through level 1, level 2, level 3. Work through all the drills in there, and your chipping technique will go up very well. So to get to that course, Lawrence, all you got to do is click the house icon at the top of the page. That'll take you to the home page. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a list of all the courses there. Click the chipping mastery course and get started on those drills. So Jeff P says, does CSG have golf seminars in other locations? So we do have golf clinics, but we only do those in Orlando at the moment. And we probably won't do any until September, October. Unfortunately, in Florida, it's just way too hot during the summer. You know, it's starting to get, like today it's 95. It's probably going to start being in the 90s more often all the way through September, the rest of the way. So we just don't like doing clinics during that time. It's just too hot for everybody. So we usually just do them in the fall, the winter, and the spring. And at the moment, we're just doing them in Orlando, in the Orlando area. We've talked about or thought about doing ones in other areas, especially like in the summer, but probably not going to be this summer just with the pandemic and everything going on. But it's possible that we may do something in the future like that. But yeah, if we ever do have anything, we'll definitely be sending out an email to our members to let everybody know. But yeah, it's possible we could go northeast or we could go out west and do something. But yeah, no, we don't have anything planned at this moment, but it has been something that we've thought about in the past. All right, so Tony V says, what is the swing modification for a side hill, lie, and ball below the feet? So there's really not much of a swing modification. You just have to understand that how the ball is going to kind of react. So if the ball is above your feet, right? So if you're up here like this, the ball is above your feet. Effectively, that's closing the face a little bit. So that's closing the face a little bit. So if I use my little face finder here, you can see here would be a normal, lie. Basically, there we go. So that'd be a normal lie. You can see it's basically going straight forward. If I get to where the lie's more above my feet, you can see how that's more, now it's more pointing more to the left. And that's because my toe is getting more up in the air. So understand that your path is probably going to be a little bit more into out, and your face is going to be a little bit more closed. So the ball is going to typically start a little bit more left than it normally would, and it's going to typically draw a little bit after that. One thing you can do is choke up on the club a little bit. Take some extra club and choke up on it. It can give you a little bit extra control with it, but really just understand how the ball is going to react. Kind of a similar type thing when the ball is below your feet. So if the ball is below your feet, it's not as much as if it's above your feet, but if the ball is below your feet, that basically tips the toe more down, right? And now the face is going to be a little bit more open, and a lot of times it will tend to fade a little bit too. It's not as prominent as if it's more above your feet because just because when you're coming down, you're not going to get the toe up that much. But if you're, if it's way above your feet, the toe can get very high and the face can get very close. But you're still, if the ball is really, really below your feet, it's not going to be as prominent, basically, is what I'm saying. So understand, the only thing I would say is as far as swing modifications, I would just take some extra club and choke up just to give yourself a little bit more control, because hitting it solid is really, really important on those shots. Give you a little bit more control of the club. It'll give you a little less loft, which can make it a little bit easier to control. But beyond that, really just understand how the ball is going to come out. So for a ball above your feet, it's going to come out more, left than it normally would, and it's typically going to draw. If it's more below your feet, for a right-handed golfer, it's going to come out a little bit more to the right. It's going to typically want to fade a little bit. So you'll typically want to aim a little left of your target for a ball below your feet, and a little bit right of your target for a ball above the feet. And obviously the severity of how much it is above your feet and below the feet is going to come into play more. If the ball, if it's like this, if it's way above your feet like this, it's definitely going to go more left. If you're a right-handed golfer, it's definitely going to go more left than if it was just like a little bit above your feet. So keep that in mind as well. It just takes some practice getting in those situations. If you're ever out, playing a little kind of a practice round or something like that, and you have, the thing that stinks about these shots is that it's hard to practice them because most ranges don't have big side hill lies. You're always hitting from a flat, kind of lie. So if you're ever out practicing or something like that on the course, and you find a place where, hey, you got severe slopes or you got uphill, downhill kind of thing, throw a few balls down, as long as there's not anybody around you or whatever, as long as you're not holding things up, and hit a few shots and get the proper feeling for what's going on there. So it's just going to take some practice getting in those situations and get a better feel for it. But as far as swing modifications go, there really isn't any. You're still swinging the same way. So Vin M says, can you talk about flat wrist versus cupping during backswing and the effects on lag and ball striking? When I keep my wrist, or if I keep my club face more closed through my backswing with a flatter wrist, I hit more consistently, but my lag is limited. If I let my wrist cup, I get more lag, but club face opens more, consistently suffers. So yeah, I would go with the more flat wrist and understand that the trail wrist plays a role in this as well. The trail wrist, because what you're probably doing is you're keeping this wrist flat, but you're kind of pushing out with this trail wrist. So have this trail wrist in this bent back position, and you'll get the best of both worlds. You'll get the lag, right? And then you'll also get the squaring of the face more in the swing. So the wrists have to work together. It's not just the lead wrist being flat. If I have the lead wrist flat and then push through, if I have the lead wrist flat and I'm like this at the top of the swing, right? I'm going to be casting the club. You may hit the ball a little bit better, more consistently because you're squaring up the face, but you're losing some power if you're casting. So if I take that flat wrist and then I bend my wrist back like that, now I have the lag and I also have a flat wrist. So I'm getting the best of both worlds. I'm getting that power and that consistency. So Stephen B says, Clay does a video called 3 Common Faults with the Driver. He suggests getting up the stable spine angle and then adding the right hand to the club kind of from below. Is that a fix? Or is that the way to set up each time? I think this is only a video that he mentioned this process. So this is just an easy way to get into that angled away position. So with a driver, right, because the ball is more forward in our stance, typically your hands are naturally going to be a little bit more ahead of your stance. So if I set up, you can set up this way, you don't have to, but you can set up this way every single time. So if I have the ball a little bit more forward in my stance, I'm standing straight up like this. In order to get my hand underneath and keep my shoulders, basically to get my trail hand on this grip and to get my shoulders to where they're not opening up as I'm coming in, I'm going to naturally kind of get into that angled away position here. So you can see here, if I bring that hand underneath, now I'm naturally in that angled away position. But if I were to keep my spine angle vertical here and put my hand there, now my shoulders are going to be open up. So to show you what that looks like, here's the right way. If I keep my shoulders square, right, and I get angled away, here's the wrong way, where if I don't keep my shoulders square and I try to get into there, I look more like this. This is what I see people like all the time, is where they have their shoulders way open. And when you're way open like this, typically what you're going to do is you're going to come over the top like this. If you're set up more angled away, you're going to bring that club in a better position and swing more from the inside. So if you're having trouble getting into this position, sure, that's something you can do every single time if you want. There's some players that do. I've seen all the time that set up like this. Personally, I don't set up that way. Typically, I've set up that way. I've set up with a stable fluid spine position angled away for so long that it just comes naturally to me. I don't even think about it. It just happens. I take my grip and I bring that club in, and then I set up, and I'm naturally just in that position already with a square shoulders, and where my hands are. I'm naturally kind of already in this position. I don't need to think about, okay, I'm going to come in like this, and then I'm going to bring my hand underneath. I don't need to think about it. It's just something that comes naturally. But if you're not in that situation, if you're in that situation where naturally for you right now, it feels natural for you to kind of set up like this at a dress with your shoulders opened up and your spine not angled away, then it may be beneficial to kind of set up that way until you get more comfortable with it. So David S. says, what drills and practice advice do you have for my hands turning the corner too fast prior to impact? For your hands turning the corner too fast. I don't see how your hands can turn the corner too fast. I mean, you can see how the club releases early, which if you're struggling with the straight line release, then I would go to the straight line release course and work through those drills, or I'd work on the move course. But typically the hands turning the corner too fast is not really an issue. That's a good thing to have. If your hands are turning the corner fast, that's great. It's the problem where it comes in is that where you release the club early. And if that's the case, then you want to work on the straight line release course or the move course to get that club releasing better. You want the hands to turn the corner fast. That's going to allow you to get lots of speed. So it's just a matter of managing how you release that club, which is the most important thing. So to get to the straight line release course, all you got to do is click the house icon at the top of the page. Scroll down. That's going to take you to the home page. Scroll down there. You can find the straight line release course, and you can also find the move course if you want to work on that one as well, because both of those are going to be about getting you to release that club properly out in front to go with the way that your hands are coming in. All right, so we got a couple any more questions here. One quick thing I wanted to mention here is that we will not have office hours on Monday. You can see at the banner at the top of the screen there. Monday's Memorial Day here in the United States, so no office hours on Monday. So we'll be back here on Tuesday, 9 a.m. Eastern time when we come back. So Dennis M. says, I'm developing a bad habit of not finishing my swing and recoiling some, pushing the ball to the right with a fade. What drills can I do to help correct that? So basically the biggest reason why I see people who struggle with finishing their swing is that they keep that trail heel anchored into the ground. So they're coming down. If I angle this down, they're coming into contact. They're keeping that ankle onto the ground as they're continuing to swing through. So they're really kind of releasing at the golf ball, and they're coming through like that. We need to get this heel kind of coming off the ground. So loosen up that heel, get that heel coming off the ground, and try to get your belt buckle pointing toward the target as you're coming through contact, and then try to hold that finished position for like 5 seconds. I'm telling you, if you go out to the range, loosen up this heel, or if you just do some practice swings in the backyard, get this heel loosened up so that it's coming off the ground as you're coming into contact. Get that belt buckle pointed toward the target. Try to get your shoulders pointing left of the target, and hold this finish for 5 seconds. Just hold it there for 5 seconds, and nice balance there. And if you do that, you'll start finishing your swing a lot better. Now, if the fades kind of persist, that's not necessarily going to fix your slicing or your fade problem. It's not necessarily because you're not finishing your swing. It could have something to do with it. It could be that you're kind of coming in and you're basically kind of swinging over the top maybe instead of continuing to rotate, starting to rotate. It could be what's going on, but keep in mind that this is more just going to help you to finish more and balance. It may make you a little bit more consistent because you're not just throwing your arms at it as you're coming into contact. There's some benefits to it, but it's not necessarily going to fix your fade or your slice. So if you're still fading and slicing the ball, then I recommend going to the Never Slice Again course and working through those drills to get rid of your slice. But work on getting off that heel, getting that belt buckle, turn to the target, hold that finish for 5 seconds, and you'll start finishing your swing a lot better. All right, so last question here, and then we'll wrap it up for today and head into the weekend. So Andrew S. says, is it an okay feeling to feel like you're swinging to the right, or is that a bad habit to feel? It really just depends on what kind of results that you're getting. So if you're someone who swings over the top and you swing to the left, feeling like you're swinging out to the right may be a great feeling for you. It's all relative. Feelings are all relative. So you have to look at, is it getting me good results? If yes, then I would say yes, that's a great feeling for you. But if not, if you're swinging out to the right and you're hitting blocks and snap hooks and things like that, it's probably not a good feeling for you to have, because when you swing to the, those are caused by a path that's too much into out with a face that's close to that path, right? So you're probably just overdoing it if that's what's going on. But everything you do with your swing has to be to improve what's going on at contact. So everyone's feels are different. You know, that may be a great feeling for somebody else and maybe a bad feeling for somebody. So you have to just look at what kind of results are you getting. If you're someone who's a slicer or a puller of the golf ball, swinging to the right, for assuming you're a right-handed golfer, might be a good feel for you. It's just something you got to try out and see if it gets you to where you want to be. So thanks everybody for joining me. We'll be back here again. We won't have office hours on Monday in observance of Memorial Day. So thank you everyone out there for joining me today. We'll be back here on Tuesday next week. Everybody have a good rest of your weekend, and I will talk to you all next time.